Welcome to Evolution. My name is Andre Lawrence, and in this video, I tell you the things that I Stop, not another word. I'm here to warn you.
How did you get here?
Forget who I am. You know who I am. Obviously, you can see who I am. But I'm here to tell you, you can't do this video. At least you can't do the video in the version that I did several weeks ago. Okay? Why? Well, if you really want to find out, stick around, and I'll let you know in 10 seconds. Why are you here? I came back in time because I had to warn you that it was really important that you put a disclaimer at this part of the video. Really? When you make this, or at least this version of it, or when I made this version of it, anyways, it's really confusing, but when this video gets made and you don't put a disclaimer, you get flamed by a ton of Niro owners for telling people that you hate your car. You don't really hate the car, but there are things that you don't like. And not only that, most of them weren't even subscribers. Oh, and by the way, that's kind of a great idea. You should consider clicking on that subscribe button because it'll make him really happy. And true. In turn, I guess that really makes me happy, so that's a really good thing. And you should also click on that notification bell, which is that right beside it, because he has no posting schedule whatsoever and posts whenever he can. So what that means is if you click that notification bell, you'll know when videos come out and you'll never miss any interesting content. Anyways, I just came to warn you, put a disclaimer in this part of the video. It's really important. That's it. I have to get back to my time because there's just way too much going on. I have tons of work to do. See ya. Right, well, thanks for the warning. Well, I suppose I'll take my own future self's advice and put a disclaimer at this part of the video. I definitely don't need to be flamed for any reason in particular. So just to be clear, this is just my opinion. In order to better illustrate the different levels of frustration that I have with these things that I dislike about my Kia Niro EV, I've decided to invent the e-Volution What-the-fudge-ometer. Now, the three different levels that are indicated there are essentially weird, which is, it's weird that Kia would choose to do something like that. Then you've got the middle Y, which is a why, oh why, Kia. It's really more frustrating because it affects me more. And then you've got the chart-topping WTF, or what the fudge were they thinking? So now let me explain what the things that frustrate me are about my Kia Niro EV. Now this first thing on the list of things that I don't like about my Niro EV is actually something that applies to any manufacturer, not just Kia. And in terms of how frustrating I find it, let me put the what-the-fudge-ometer up here on the screen. It's a question of why would any manufacturer decide that it's a good idea to put shiny black plastic finish on the inside of a car. I've got a few problems with this. On my car, the 2019 Niro EV, I've got gloss black trim here where I put my hands. I've got gloss black trim all around the center console where I put my hands to shift the knob into drive or reverse, etc., and press all of the feature buttons that are there. And then I've got gloss black trim all around the dash. Now, having it where I put my hands, fingerprints, dust, possible scratches, all terrible things for something that gets used on a daily basis. But if you look at the 2020 and newer Niro EV, that dash, which is a little bit different than mine, is covered with a large shiny black plastic piece and surrounded by shiny silver trim, meaning that when you drive the car and it's sunny, you can be blinded by the dash trim in your car. Now, in my opinion, that's a pretty stupid choice of materials. It might look good in a showroom, but in daily use, bad idea. The next thing on my list of things that I hate about my Kia Niro EV, and this will apply to any car that has this particular feature, and let me just give you a perspective as to how much it bothers me with my what-the-fudge-ometer. I'll stick that up here on the screen. Now, it rates up pretty high because having the charge port in front, it doesn't make any sense to me. A lot of people park nose into their driveways, and that's fine for them, but in my opinion, and in many people's opinions, it's safer if you back in. It's also easier when you back in because you're pivoting on the back wheels as opposed to having to swing the whole front end into a small spot. But it also poses an issue in places where it gets really cold and there can be snow and slush and ice. And you can leave in the morning and your car will look like this, and that's what this car looks like now. But then you come back about an hour later and your car can look like this. Or worse yet, it could be something like this that I'll put up on the screen right now. This is actually my car after driving in slushy but cold conditions. The entire front of the car was completely coated in ice. And not just clean ice, this was filthy and it was no fun. So not only was the car disgusting and I had to press up against it to try and open the door, but that was coated in ice. I had to break through the ice, and this is plastic. So you don't want to bang in that too hard, especially when it's cold. I ended up melting it and getting through all that stuff, and I was able to open the charge port. But it's just one of the things that makes me wonder, why the fudge would they do that? So there you go. That's one of my bigger ones. Now for this next one, let me put the What-the-fudge-ometer up here on the screen immediately. You'll see that this is more a question of something that's weird, in my opinion, as opposed to why or what the fudge. Now, if you look at a Tesla, the interior of the Tesla Model 3, Model Y, etc., they're very pure, very simple, and essentially have no buttons. Now, they don't even have a button for the glove box. That is one extreme of things. But if you look at Kia's design choice for the Niro EV, it's like button hell. Now, they went on the complete other end of the spectrum, and there are a ton. Let me give you an idea as to what I'm talking about here. Starting with the mirror in my Niro EV, there are 6 buttons that I've never used. If you move up to the overhead console and don't count the fact that the lights are actually buttons as well, there are another 3. Moving down below the center touchscreen, there are the multimedia controls for another 11 buttons, plus the power button for a total of 12 more. Below that are the climate control buttons, and if you count the buttons that are actually in the center of the dials, that adds another 11. Then as we move down to the center console, if you include the park button, that adds another 8, for a total of 40. Then we'll move over to the steering wheel. And on the right side of the steering wheel, you've got a total of 6 buttons, and we'll ignore the paddle and the stalk that has buttons on it. Moving over to the left side of the steering wheel, you've got, you guessed it, another 6 buttons. And once again, we'll ignore the paddle and the stalk that has more stuff on it. And then if you move just to the left of the steering wheel, you've got another, you guessed it, 6 buttons. And if you're in Europe, you get 1 for the vest. That means that you get an extra 1. Here you've got the seat memory buttons for another 3 for a total of 61. And then there are the rest of the buttons on the driver's door for a total of 70. Now one thing that I forgot to count was the actual number of buttons on the side of the driver's seat. Since it's electrically powered, there are actually 3 more buttons for a total of 73. Now that you've seen what I mean about the button craziness in the Niro EV, I wish there was some sort of compromise between the Tesla Model 3, Model Y, and having no buttons at all, and the Niro, which is just button crazy. So there you go. It's just kind of weird. Now this next one is something that it's kind of in the middle of my scale. Let me put the What-the-fudge-ometer up here to show you. Essentially the question is, why Kia? Why did you decide to make it so the auto hold feature, why would they not make this a feature that you can make persistent? I have no idea. Auto hold feature is this right here. So when you activate this button, and I'll press it in a second, let me just show you on the dash. At the top left, it turns on. If I'm in drive, and I press and release the brake, it turns green, and now I'm no longer touching the brake. The car is in drive, but the car will not go forward until I touch the accelerator, not the gas pedal, and then the car goes forward. Now if I power off the car, I'll just open and close the door, and then power the car back on. Lo and behold, auto hold is gone. I need to press the button again to turn it on. That's something that I find really annoying. Now this next thing on my list of things that I hate is actually one of the chart toppers. Let me put the What-the-fudge-ometer up on the screen here. This one blows my mind. Now considering the price paid for this car and it's the top trim, I wonder why, oh why Kia, did you put the crappiest 12-volt lead acid battery that you could find in the market? Now this little 410 cold cranking amp original Kia 12-volt battery lasted me 19 months. You heard that right, 19 months. And in the last month that I had it, it was dying so often, I went to Costco and bought a lithium-ion booster pack so that I could start my car, and I've used this maybe 20 times. Now, to rectify that, I did not go to Kia to purchase the replacement same 12-volt crappy battery. I decided to go to a battery shop and I bought a bigger capacity AGM, which is a deep cycle technology battery that will last a long time. Now, it's got a 100% warranty for 5 years, and this thing is going to do the trick. In a car that has all the technology that it has, if you add something like a dash cam, like I've got dual dash cams front and back that record 24/7, you need a 12-volt battery that's going to last. So I went and spent $300 out of my pocket, no warranty, bought a new battery to solve my problem. And this is not just my Niro. This is something that if you do a little bit of searching, you're going to see a lot of people complaining about their Kia Soul and Kia Niro EV 12-volt batteries. I just want to be clear that it's not because I made a list of things that I don't like about my Niro EV that I don't like the car. That's absolutely not the case. I love my Niro. It is by far the best car that I've owned since 1987, and I've owned quite a few cars since then. Now, the car ownership experience has also been fantastic. An electric car is just leaps and bounds beyond a gas-powered car in terms of what it's like to live with one. Now, with that being said, I wanted to say that the beginning of this video was something new for me, and I hope you enjoyed it. I had a ton of fun making it. It was a big learning curve, but it was a lot of fun, and I thought I would try something different. Now, the inspiration from that actually comes from a YouTube channel called Fingerprints Workshop, and it's owned by a guy called Ronnie, who does all sorts of interesting things, and he's a maker. He makes all sorts of things. But he's got a current project that's the restoration of a Fiero, from pulling it out of a field and turning it into something that's actually drivable and really restoring it. The car looks fantastic. He's not done, so you might want to check out his YouTube channel, which I'll link in the description below, and maybe subscribe to his channel to say thanks for, inspiring me to do the future me versus current time me. That was definitely where I got my inspiration for that. So Ronnie, thanks for the idea. Now, if you like this video, then please consider clicking on the like button, because that tells YouTube that you like my videos, which means that they'll suggest my videos to other people, and it's kind of like the circle of life for videos, and I'd really appreciate it. As I mentioned in the beginning, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, I would also really appreciate you considering clicking on that subscribe button, because when you click on subscribe and you click on the notification bell, you'll find out when my videos come out, because as I mentioned earlier, I don't really have a posting schedule. And speaking of subscriptions, my last video in about a week and a half gained about 400 subscribers to my channel, and I wanted to say thank you really from the bottom of my heart to everybody, because that was a huge leap in a very short period of time, and I really do appreciate it. So thank you very much. Now, because I do have a ton of new subscribers, I thought I would reiterate some of the stuff that I mentioned in my last video. I have an e-Volution Facebook page where you can see articles and ask me questions, and that's that up there. And I've also got an e-Volution Instagram account where you can see pictures of behind the scenes as well as future things that I might be making. And I also have an e-Volution webpage. That's this right here. Now, the e-Volution webpage is really cool because it sort of is a catch-all for all of my videos, all of my Instagram pictures, all of the products that I've bought and reviewed, as well as some other stuff that I haven't made videos about. And the last thing that I want to mention is that I do have a Ko-fi account, which is something very recent for me. It's about a month or two old now, where I post exclusive content. Now, there's stuff in there that you don't see on anything else. Sometimes it's a sneak peek as to this video, actually. There was a picture of me with me in my Ko-fi account. And if you feel like buying me a coffee to support me, I would really appreciate it. So with all of this being said and done, I wanted to say again, thank you very much. I really appreciate you liking, subscribing my videos, and I appreciate you taking the time to watch. Well, I guess I should take my future me's advice and put a disclaimer in this part of the video, because I definitely don't need to be Yeah, okay. The next thing on my list of things that I hate about my car are the fact that the charge port is in the front. Nah, that's crap. You might leave in the morning with the car looking like this, but then when you come back, frig, my mouth is frozen already. In the end, I wish they had done some sort of compromise between absolutely no buttons like in a Tesla, and then button crazy in the Niro. It's obscene. I'm thinking to myself, thinking to myself, dude. It's more a question of weird than frustrating or why. Although the why, what am I doing? Face dancing? Because I was constantly boosting my dead 12-volt bat. Blows my mind. Now, considering the price that I paid for this car, it's by no means expensive, but by no means is it any cheap. Now, this next thing in my list of little and it basically ends up being a question of why would they choose flat black? Yeah, why would you choose flat black? That's exactly the thing that I want. Nice. It's a terrible idea. So why Kia or any manufacturer would you decide that this is a good idea? I have no idea. Ah, fart. Now here's my what-the-fudge-ometer level of, Not only is piano black or gloss black flinish. It's a new country. I live in Flinish.